Welcome to FedScoop TV. I'm Wyatt Cash, and we're here at the Red Hat 2016 Government Symposium, and I'm here with Steve Stratton. Steve is the Senior Director for Federal Product Management with ForcePoint. Welcome to the program.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
So we're talking about all things open source. My first question for you is, how have you seen open source really kind of make progress in federal government?
Yeah, that's a great question. In the federal government, we've seen over time, for example, like with Red Hat and other open source solutions, slow uptake but gradual uptake into the government as they start to understand the available ROI, the productivity gains they get, and actually, in the last 5 to 8 years, also the enhanced security we get from an open source community, which we didn't think we would get back in the proprietary days. So.
And briefly, how do you see that continuing to evolve in the next couple of years?
Well, I think next administration, for example, will start to see even more work on the digital government and that kind of open approach, and how do we quickly deliver what our consumers, the people of the United States, need from us in the federal government, both internally, across agencies, information sharing, and then out to constituents. And I think that's going to really help accelerate what we do going forward.
Well, Steve, you mentioned cybersecurity, and there's often some confusion about how cybersecurity can work in an open source environment. Tell us a little your take on that, particularly because I know your company specializes in that area.
Yes, we firmly believe that an open source community can actually help increase the security at a much quicker rate on a given product or solution than a proprietary development team can on their own. They also tend to be locked in by the financials of the company, that proprietary company. So we've seen great strides. I was involved in the move from some proprietary software into Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and now we have customers, DoD, IC agencies using it and relying on that security and level of security to protect the nation's greatest secrets.
Next, I'd like to ask about IT modernization. It's been an important topic with the U.S. CIO, Tony Scott, and at the same time, there's a lot of budget concerns about how do we get there. How do you see open source contributing to the evolution of IT modernization in government?
Yeah, well, it's great you mentioned Tony, because he put out Memorandum 16-21 that talked about even open source being a part of custom software development in the federal government, if they go that route. And it acknowledged for the first time that several agencies have very strong policies around open source and looking towards open source first in an acquisition before going the custom route. So I think we're starting to see that uptake once again, and it comes down to dollars and cents. I mean, we've been in sequestration, we've been in a tight budget, so how do you get the mission done with the dollars you have? And open source really opens that up and is, I believe, in the future going to allow us to really start to create some common application architectures and structures that the government can then move forward with in a much more efficient way.
And then lastly, and more broadly, how have you seen open source contributing to things like collaboration, speed to development, et cetera, and what role has open source played in actually helping that?
Yeah, I think once again, it's that community of ideas. It's just not one group of people coming forward with an idea and sort of trying to make it work in a government environment, but agencies, people outside the government can all contribute to this solution in an open source community and help broaden its capabilities. And we've seen examples where you could use an open source OS like Red Hat and then find an open source collaboration tool and put those together rather quickly because they've already built those integrations, those APIs, they're open systems, and accelerate what's going forward. And I think it's key as we start to replace the government workforce with people like myself who grew up on laptops and those desktop environments with younger folks who are used to operating from a handheld device. And so how are we going to be device independent, let them do their work the way that they can get it done quickly, get those productivity tools, yet share information securely. And so open source is going to play a big role in that and actually moves much quicker and can adopt as the government continues to work on its strategy. So.
Well, Steve Stratton with ForcePoint, thank you very much for being with us and sharing some of your insights with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Wyatt Cash with FedScoop. Look for more of our coverage on fedscoop.com. Thanks for being with us.